Now, another Rock Sports Network presentation.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a brand new edition of the Huddle here for a new season, 2019, right here on Rock Sports Network. My name is Ryan Lasal. Joining me, as always, my partner in crime, Icey Vick. We've got some guests here joining us today. Since this is the first game of the season, we thought we'd bring some reinforcements down here to my right. Dan Borrello, host of the Dan Borrello Show, as well as the OT, new show coming up on Rock Sports Network. Make sure you tune in and check him out. And then to my left, if you don't recognize this ugly mug, Drew Gier from the Rock Power Report. They're one of the best Bills podcasts out there. Make sure you give them a follow on Facebook and as well on really anywhere you can get podcasts. You're going to find the Rock Power Report. Subscribe and make sure you catch that new content they've got coming out every week. So we are here live from Thurman's 34 Rush at Batavia Downs, where things are hopping every night with over 30 HD screens, including a 15-foot main screen, food and drink specials, live music on select weekends. Make sure you check them out, facebook.com/Batavia Downs. They've got a lot of cool outside games going on, specials going on. Thurman Thomas is here at 34 Rush, so if you've got time and you need a place to watch the game, come on down to Thurman's 34 Rush here at Batavia Downs. We're going to be here all day, so come hang out with us, have a couple drinks, and watch the Bills game, which we're going to be previewing as we get going here. So, guys, obviously we've got a lot of storylines going on in the AFC, specifically this offseason. First, Jadeveon Clowney gone. Laramie Tunsil goes from the Dolphins to the Texans. LaShawn McCoy goes from the Bills to the Chiefs. And then the news yesterday, Antonio Brown out in Oakland, and just as quickly as he's out in Oakland, he is in New England. So, Dan, I'm going to start with you down here. Biggest storyline for you in the AFC, or maybe which move do you think is going to be the most impactful to the state of the AFC as the season goes on?
Honestly, I mean, I really think it comes down to this. Until you knock the Patriots off, I mean, let's be honest. Every year, Tom Brady's older. Well, guess what? He keeps giving Father Time the finger.
Yeah.
Okay? So let's be honest. With Antonio Brown, without Antonio Brown, I don't think it's going to matter until this guy gets taken off the field on a stretcher and we never see him again. Because he's always found a way to figure things out with Bill Belichick. So, to be honest with you, they can win with him and they'd be better with him if he can buy in. But if he doesn't, they're going to be fine because they're the Patriots. I picked them to win the Super Bowl again this year anyway because I've learned my lesson so many times. Don't bet against the Patriots. Sounds lazy, but I think it's a fact. Now, Antonio Brown, it's going to be an interesting saga to watch. But how long are we going to watch this saga? It's going to be 1 week, 2 weeks. Bill Belichick is known to pull the plug on people, say, you know what, get out of here, I don't need you. He don't care who you are.
Yeah.
He got Randy Moss to buy in, but there were others he couldn't get to buy in. He even got Aaron Hernandez to buy into the team, not his extracurricular activities.
Yeah.
Okay? But you want to talk about just win, baby? Those guys get to New England, or they just win or they're out. He's cut second-round draft picks. He'll tell you to go jump.
Yeah.
He'll do it, and he's been able to. Albert Haynesworth, bye, see ya. So if Antonio Brown ain't buying in, bye-bye. They'll win without him. That's going to be fun to watch.
Yep. Icy. So is Antonio Brown in New England? Is this Randy Moss or is this Albert Haynesworth? Is this going to work for the Patriots this year?
I think it's going to work. I don't think he forces a deal out, and then goes to the Patriots to say, I'm going to do what I want to do. Everybody in NFL circles knows about what's going on with the Patriots, the Patriot way. Everybody knows exactly what they have to do to, mesh in Bill Belichick's system. So he's just going to shut his face. He's going to do what he has to do, probably win a Super Bowl, and then move on next season and get a big contract if he has a good season. I think the biggest storyline for the AFC East is the Buffalo Bills revamping that offense. Because let's face it, the Patriots are going to be good regardless. They won 11 games with Matt Castle as their starting quarterback.
Yeah,
they missed the playoffs, but they still won 11 games with Matt Castle. And we all know Matt Castle is terrible. He's a terrible quarterback. They still won those games. Last year, the Bills got outscored by over 100 points. They scored 50 points lower than the Dolphins, who was second or third in the AFC East. The defense is good enough to keep this team in the game every day, all day long. Any given Sunday, that defense could win you a game. But can the offense win you a game? If the offense gets clicking, you spend all this money on wide receivers, you brought in all this offensive line help, can this team take the next step as an offense and actually start holding their own and winning some games for this team? Because if they can do that, then this is going to be a very, very dangerous Bills team.
Yeah, so, Drew, over to you in regards to the AFC. Is there a team out there that you think can challenge the Patriots in the AFC right now. Again, you've got the Texans who have done what they needed to do, right, and that's try to protect Deshaun Watson a little better. They go out and get Laramie Tunsil. In doing so, they get rid of Jadeveon Clowney, so how good's that defense going to be? Kansas City, are they a team that can challenge them again?
You're talking to me about the Texans,
yeah.
Okay? The Texans have never won anything and will never win anything until they fix the biggest issue with that team, which is their head coach.
And the GM now.
And the GM.
So they give a bad head coach GM powers, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Essentially, what you've done is you've turned things over to a guy who hasn't proven that he can get anything done. I'm not buying it. You look at Westgate. That's where I usually like to look when you're talking about how you feel about a given team. You could go to different sports news outlets and look at their power rankings. Look at the people who spend money on this stuff. That's who I tend to defer to. You go to Westgate right now, Kansas City is still the favorite to win the Super Bowl. And there's a reason for that. They have Patrick Mahomes, an offense that he threw more than 50 touchdown passes in his first season of action. He's going to grow. He's going to grow within Andy Reid's system. You could argue that their stable of playmakers actually got better this offseason because they're still bringing back Tyreek Hill.
Yep.
They've got Travis
Extended
Kelce.
him, yeah.
They've got Travis Kelce. They got Mecole Hardman, who is almost he's the type of athlete like Tyreek Hill, which is why they drafted him.
Sammy Watkins. They got a whole offseason with Sammy Watkins, yeah.
And now you're talking about they actually took draft capital and took free agency capital and went and invested in that defense. They had the NFL's worst defense last season, which we talk about how great defenses can vary from one season to the next. Well, so do awful defenses. It's easy to fix a bad defense and take them from the worst to middle of the pack than it is to take a terrible offense and make it middle of the road.
Yeah.
So with that, if you've already got this piece and you can get the defense halfway there, you already have a leg up over every other team in football, including the New England Patriots. I like the Chiefs.
Dan, you buying the Chiefs this year?
I'm buying them to a certain extent. Oh, they'll be there. They'll be at the AFC Championship game. And, a lot of times when we make predictions, we defer back to last year. Because really, how much really changes? It's a quarterback league. Here's my issue with Andy Reid. He's the cool dad. He's the fun dad. But he's not the good dad.
Yeah.
Bill Belichick's the good dad. In a way, he reminds me of my father. I don't care if my kids hate me, but if I'm doing what's right for them, they can hate me all I want. This is how I love them.
They're going to go on to a great school. They're going to end up with great careers.
Right. In other words, thank you,
thank
Dad.
me later.
Thank you for making me read those books instead of watching TV. Andy Reid, look, I don't hate to bring it back to his personal life, but let's keep it on the field. He brings in these problem children, and you know what? As long as you play, who cares? But eventually that's going to catch up with you, okay? And there's always something loose. There's always something that, they didn't quite finish by the time they get to the biggest drive of the game or the biggest game of their careers, where Bill Belichick's already got that figured out. I'm not buying the Chiefs. I'm buying they're going to be good. They may even have home field. They may have the best record in the league, but they're not going to the Super Bowl. Because after all these years, I'm still not buying Andy Reid all in as the good dad. When he can show me he's the good dad, and, say, hey, let's give Tyreek Hill a contract extension, even though he probably, come on.
Yeah.
Let's get Frank Clark in here, even though he's had a history. I mean, how many of these guys are you going to bring in to try to win football games? That's an act of desperation. Hey. I'm not buying it. No.
They can't all be Boy Scouts.
No, they can't. But you know what, though? You can keep the Boy Scouts in line while they're in uniform. And to be honest with you, I don't know that Andy Reid does that necessarily. And there's also times in game situations where you're sitting there going, really?
Well, didn't they make it to 4 straight NFC championship
They did.
games and not win a single one of them?
Yeah.
They won one.
They won one.
And then when they got to the Super Bowl, all of a sudden his quarterback is like hyperventilating during the most important drive of the game.
Right before the
and T.O. and what's his name? Fred X. Remember the original Fred X?
Yeah.
Where it's calling the plays from the sidelines. Yeah. Well, it was the last game he ever played.
Yeah.
And Donovan's like, what's his head coach doing? All right, let's just keep the plays coming in. I mean, dude, you got the Super Bowl on the line here.
And he gets potentially an all-time performance from T.O. on a broken leg.
Right.
And he still can't
11 catches in that game.
Yeah.
T.O. showed up. His quarterback didn't. Donovan McNabb's career was never the same after that, and why? Because Andy Reid didn't come up to go, Donovan, let's go.
Yeah, you've done this before. Yeah.
And whereas, Jimmy Johnson, Bill Belichick, I hate to keep praising these guys, but there's a reason, because they're good.
Yeah. Icey, are you picking anybody else in the AFC, anybody out there that can challenge what sounds like it's coming down to the Patriots and the Chiefs? Are the Chargers a team that can sneak in there? Are the Browns maybe a surprise team that can give people some headaches come playoff time?
A lot of people are talking about the Browns, hyping them up. I've heard people talk about Browns for the Super Bowl this year. It's too early, man.
Didn't they just finish 1-15 a couple years? Win one game in 2 years.
Your 2018's all
a
hype
quarterback
team.
can make a huge difference, and Baker Mayfield is the real deal. But it's just going to be those two teams. It's going to be the Patriots, and it's going to be the Chiefs. Everybody else is they're just people. They're innocent bystanders, just trying to stay out of their own way. In my opinion, I don't see anybody challenging those two teams. Belichick he's brilliant. He's a genius. And he's gonna go down as the greatest coach and greatest GM in the history of the NFL. And no one's gonna argue that when it's all said and done. And then you have the Chiefs, who have supreme talent all the way around. I mean, their defense was lacking
the Chiefs are almost
last year,
too talented to be bad. Right?
They're too talented to be bad, especially on the offensive side of the ball. Patrick Mahomes is the man. And, again, all those offensive weapons that he has. I mean, your third running back, Darwin Thompson, looked like the second coming of Shady McCoy. And
now he gets to learn from Shady.
Exactly. So, I mean, you have all these options, and we can have a bad defense. We're just going to score a lot more of the points than you. And that works for some people. And, anything you say about Andy Reid, he might not be the greatest coach of all time. He might not be that hard dude.
He's a hell of a coach.
Yeah, but I tell you what, as long as you put those guys in position to win and you let them put it in their hands, these guys are winners. These guys have won their whole careers. All these NFL players have won their whole careers. They're going to come in and they're going to take care of business, especially when you have that many winners in the same room.
All right, so we've talked about the Patriots. We've talked about the Chiefs. Drew, is there a team? Let's talk a little bit quickly about the AFC North. Who's going to win the AFC North this year? Because obviously you've got the Steelers, you've got the Ravens, who are always, it seems like they're always good, even though everyone looks at their roster and they don't figure out how they can be good. And then the Browns, who are the darlings of this offseason this year. Are the Browns going to take that leap?
The thing that bothers me about all this Browns talk is the same thing that bothers me with all this talk that the Bills remade our offensive line, our defense is elite. This is the year. Michael Robinson from NFL Network gets to go on TV every
3 years in a row, yeah.
and every year and be wrong about the Bills being the team that wins the division because they make minor changes to the roster. Ultimately, until you do it, you don't deserve credit for anything.
Yeah.
The Browns haven't done it. They still haven't had a winning season. They still haven't proven that they're competent enough to compete for the division. So they don't deserve the credit that the Steelers have earned. Between the Ravens, we don't know what they're going to be on offense. The Bengals,
we never know what they're going to be on offense, and they're always good.
The Bengals, I don't know what's happening with the Bengals. None of it's good.
No.
Their offensive line is in trouble. They're a new, older playmakers with a middle-of-the-road
Green, you don't know when he's back, yeah. That
But
AJ Green situation is really weird.
You want to look at the Browns and say that's the bones of a roster that's going to win.
Yeah.
But you don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know, and so with that, I can't buy the hype, and I still think it's the Steelers.
Dan, how about the AFC South? So it looked like it was the Colts division to win, or to lose, rather. Andrew Luck suddenly retires. That's a whole different conversation. But does that open the door for the Texans, for the Titans, to now kick that in and win that division? Who winds up coming out of the South?
This may be the worst division in the history of sports. Can we send the Texans again this year? Is there anybody else but the Texans? Can we get somebody, please, besides the Texans? Why? Because they're just good enough. Some people made the argument.
The Titans will be in the hunt,
If
right?
no, I don't think I don't think the Titans are good. Why do you ever? Well, Mike Vrabel's a hell of a head coach. Matt LaFleur was like the coordinator of the year for the first month of the season last year, and then.
Yeah, and we see what he's doing.
Marcus Mariota. I'm not buying Marcus Mariota, and I haven't since his rookie year. I mean, it's a quarterback league. I hate to bring it back to that. Here's what it's come back to. It's by default the Texans are going to be good. Deshaun Watson, if he can stay upright and they can protect him, that offensive line's a joke. They had to make a desperation trade to try to protect him, which is their most valuable asset. And by the way, that's what happens when you let your head coach be your GM. All of a sudden he's thinking in terms of today, not 5 to 10 years from now. But that's another story for another time. Let's put it this way. Texans are going to win this division because nobody else can. I'm not buying Jacoby Brissett. I don't know if anybody was reaching out to the Colts over the last 2 years. Hey, Brissett, is he available? Nobody's doing that. He's an adequate quarterback, but he's like Tyrod Taylor. Or he's like, Ryan Tannehill. He's one of those guys where it's like he's okay.
You can win with him, but you won't win because of him.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Like he'll babysit the offense and do all that stuff. I hope this kid makes strides. I want Frank Reich to succeed. I want the Colts to win that division now more than ever because Andrew Luck is not there and because we love Frank Reich so much, don't we, guys?
Yep.
But at the end of the day, it's the Texans just because they got nobody else left. And I'm not buying Jacksonville. I'm sorry. It's not happening.
Yeah.
Nick Foles was great, and I understand that He's got his old quarterbacks coach now calling the plays in Jacksonville when he was in Philadelphia when they won the Super Bowl. But Nick Foles, I'm just not buying him. I think he was in the right place in Philadelphia. He got the respect of the locker room. But there's a reason he was a journeyman quarterback for so long. This is not the second coming of Rich Gannon here, or Jeff Hostetler. I gotta go with the Texans by default, and I hate saying that because they'll be out of the first round of the playoffs this year again.
Icey, speaking of the AFC South and speaking of the Titans, how long before Ryan Tannehill's starting in Tennessee? Do they give Mariota the whole season, or do you think if they're 500 or so at the bye week, do they look to make a change to try to jumpstart that offense a little bit?
I mean, you're looking at your bench and you see Ryan Tannehill and you see anybody else, and you're looking down there and you're like, man, should we start Tannehill or should we try to start a running back or a wide receiver at quarterback? Yeah, I don't think you're pulling Mariota for any reason when you have Ryan Tannehill as your backup, because Ryan Tannehill has been historically bad every time he stepped on the field. And you want to talk about wildly mediocre, is Ryan Tannehill's whole career. He earned a freaking contract for some odd reason. The Dolphins decided to pay him, and he did a lot of nothing. So you're not going to get anything out of Ryan Tannehill. I think they know that he's just a backup. If Mariota goes down with the injury, he can come in and he can maybe keep you in a game, but I don't think you're going to say, man, this year we need to get this offense jump-started and we need to get Ryan Tannehill in there. I don't see that happening.
He lost his job to Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Ryan Fitzpatrick was on pace to throw for 5,000 yards last season if he played the whole season. And, throw 45 interceptions, but come on. He's at least – you want to talk about jump-starting an offense? Ryan Fitzpatrick could do that in a limited capacity. He just can't do it all season.
So that's what we in the business call a segue. So speaking of Ryan Fitzpatrick, let's shift gears to the AFC East here. Drew, what's Miami doing?
Wow. So I'm
speaking of Ryan Fitzpatrick,
I'm looking at CBS Sports, and I see the headline that the AFC East, they ranked all of the divisions in football. And even with the New England Patriots here, the AFC East is still ranked as the worst out of the 8 divisions. But when you take a look at it, it's not a stretch to see why, because you have a Super Bowl contending team. You have a couple teams that are trying to make moderate improvements.
Wild card teams, yeah.
And then you've got one team that has steered directly into the tank.
Yeah.
If you showed any promise, if you made any money, if you had a sniff of experience, they wanted you as far away from this thing as possible.
Yeah.
I feel bad. I feel bad. Hey,
go Bills.
I feel bad for all of the players. Now, there's a lot of young guys on that Dolphins squad this year who are going to get a shot that they probably wouldn't normally get. I know they just got a guy who came on our show a few weeks ago told us about this kid from the CFL who was turning heads all over the place at linebacker. He doesn't get that playing time if Kiko Alonso's still around.
Sure.
But they find a way to minimize him and then ship him out for nothing. And that's the thing. You look at the Tunsil trade, you say, okay, that's a bad trade for both the Texans and the Dolphins. Because the Dolphins now are going to be terrible because the offensive line was already a sieve.
Yeah.
You got rid of the only guy with any real talent on that line.
Right.
But you look at the Texans are worse in the future. So you're making the team so bad this year that you almost hope that no one can out-tank you for whatever quarterback of your choosing you're trying to land with, and that brings the whole division down.
Yeah.
I just want to just throw something on his point, too. I mean, it's just like Drew's got a point there. I hate seeing NFL teams tank. I hate seeing baseball teams tank. I hate tanking, period. I understand why it's done, though, for strategy. You got a kid in Josh Rosen. So what is it about Josh Rosen that he's not showing you that you feel the need to tank for Tagovailoa? That's what I'm wondering right now. What is it with this kid?
Well, I think this is it, though.
Have you seen him play?
No, I understand, but it's preseason. I mean, like, he's adjusting to a new offense.
They look at Rosen the same way teams look at Ryan Tannehill. You're a guy who has some ability. You can be a high-end backup, maybe. And if you turn into something, you've seen how the Patriots have treated quarterbacks over the years. They're trade capital.
Yeah.
Ultimately, what they want isn't a guy who's okay. They want the next Andrew Luck. They want the next Patrick Mahomes. In order to do that, you almost have to either trade up or go to the bottom. And they've decided that going to the bottom is the way to do it.
So I saw a hilarious tweet because you talk about the move for Tunsil. Next year, you're going to have probably a rookie quarterback, right? Tank for Tua. They're going to draft somebody. One of these guys is going to be at the helm for the Dolphins. So you think the last thing that they want to do is trade away a pretty good to very good left tackle, right? Well, I read a tweet that I thought was pretty funny that Tua's a lefty. So do they need a left tackle for Tua? Is that why they make the move, or are they just an inept team and they don't realize that you got to keep a guy like Tunsil because you're going to wind up with a young quarterback and you need to protect him?
You're giving a group of grown men who walk around voluntarily wearing orange and teal. You're giving them credit that I don't. I mean, if they thought that was a good idea, there's no way they came up with this on their own.
So I think you talk about the AFC East, and it really comes down to obviously the Patriots are the cream of the crop. I think everyone has them walking away with the division as of right now. Dan, it comes down to probably the Jets and the Bills for that number 2 spot. Right now, kind of where do you rank those two teams between Jets or Bills?
Jets are better.
Okay.
Sorry. If you looked ahead, I know you talked about Westgate earlier. If you looked ahead to next week, I happened to do this by accident. I said a tweet. You responded to it yesterday. Yeah. Next week, we're already looking into week 2. The Giants are 1.5-point favorites against the Bills. Why? Because they're at home. No, I don't care what the favorite is. Basically, Vegas is saying right now, as of right now, we've made fun of the Giants all year. We haven't said a word about the Bills, but this is where we think the Bills are. There's some truth to that. Now, I'm not basing my predictions off Vegas. I'm saying that's the sentiment. Okay, fine. It comes down to this, your quarterbacks. I think Darnold's a little bit further along than Josh Allen. And I think we knew that when they drafted him. I think we knew that going in. This is not going to be a flip of the switch in the second year. You hope by his third year he gets it. I don't expect great things out of Allen this year. I expect him to be hopefully somewhere between, and this is a huge gap, okay, fellas, Mitchell Trubisky last year and Patrick Mahomes last year, which is that's a huge gap. But, I mean, if he finishes the year better than he started, I'll be happy with that. Right now I think the Jets have an offensive-minded head coach. They have a Pro Bowler in the backfield, even though he's taken a year off. I think that you saw a year last year where Sam Darnold really started to get things at the end of the season, and you saw Josh Allen start to get things. I think that's the difference. I think Darnold's just a better quarterback, right? I think that's why if you're going to go with second place, perhaps even a playoff team, if Gase can keep his marbles together, which I know is not easy for him.
Well, they're already kind of scattered all over, and he's
yeah, and he's following tacos in press conferences. I know. Well, I think the Jets right now are a better team. That's not a shot at the Bills. That's just where I think they're at, and I hope that I'm wrong. I don't mind being wrong when it comes to my beloved Buffalo Bills. I haven't missed a game since 1987. But right now, if you're asking me what I think the Jets are slightly better than the Buffalo Bills right now.
So, Icey, we talk about Josh Allen and the leap that he needs to take this year. I think Dan brought up an interesting point. You talk about Mitchell Trubisky because that's what everyone kind of talked about, right? He came into an offensive system. He wasn't quite ready to be an NFL quarterback. He made a decent leap in year 2. When we talk about good Mitchell Trubisky, let's keep in mind that the weeks that Mitchell Trubisky was good, talk about the last 6 weeks of the season, he was a top 10 fantasy quarterback option at the position. So he was good when he was playing well. Is that a fair bar for Josh Allen right now, do you think? Is it good Mitchell Trubisky, or do you think that the Bills need to see a bigger step forward than that this year for them to be encouraged about what Josh Allen may bring? Because we've got a lot of good quarterback classes coming up this year and again next year. Yeah. And next year might be the time to start thinking about another quarterback if you need to.
Of course. Well, I look at Josh Allen, and I wasn't a huge fan of the draft pick anyway because you drafted a project quarterback on the top of the first round of the NFL draft. It makes no sense to me. But he comes out and does 52.8% of his passes for a season, which Bills fans seem to think was fantastic for some odd reason, which is really abysmal. It's the bottom of the barrel as far as it gets for starting quarterbacks. I think, though, with this defense, it's a top 5 defense all day long. If you can get Josh Allen just complete about 60% of his passes, which is below league average, just to complete 60% of his passes, I think this is a very dangerous team because this team hung around games last year because of the defense, and they were the 3rd lowest scoring team in the league last year. Just completing another 7-8% of your passes, you're going to get the ball in scoring range where you can have the best kickers in the NFL and at least help put points on the board. Yeah. I think if he can get his completion percentage up there 60, 62%, this could be one of the more dangerous teams in the NFL. Can he do that, though? I don't have faith that anyone's going to make that big of a leap in one season, especially a guy who's notorious for being an inaccurate quarterback. But you went out and you signed Cole Beasley, who was one of his safety blankets, his security blankets all off season. And if he can get 5 yards, 6 yards chunks here or there, just checking down to Cole Beasley instead of taking a sack or throwing the ball away or throwing it in the dirt to your running back in the flats, I think it'll be a huge upgrade for this offense.
So Drew, for you, real quick, so we talk about that leap forward that Josh Allen needs to take and to be a competent quarterback. Did they do enough this offseason, do you think, to help him take that step? And if they did, which move do you think was the move that does that? Was it Beasley? Is it bringing in a center like Morse? Is that what helps him take a step forward?
Well, I think he was one of the most pressured quarterbacks in the NFL last season, to the point where people talk about his running and how he wouldn't look that good and this wouldn't have happened and that wouldn't have happened if he didn't run the ball. What a lot of people don't realize when you're watching the game play out that gets lost in this, when you go back and rewatch it, you realize he's running not because he wants to, but because a lot of times there was just genuinely no one open.
Yeah.
Or he didn't have the time to find them. I think the offensive line is the biggest improvement that they've made around him, and I think that that's going to help him settle in. You're talking about Cole Beasley. Last season, I don't know that he trusts that offensive line to keep him clean long enough to stand in the pocket and wait for Cole Beasley to run a route to get him open across the linebacker's face. I don't think that happens. I think that as he grows to trust this revamped offensive line, or at least hopefully revamped offensive line, that's going to make him a more productive passer. But with that said, just 2 weeks ago on our show, I was talking about this. The Bills' offense in 2019 doesn't get a pass from me.
Yeah.
You can talk about the fact that our wide receiver group, we don't know who our number one is. It's like dodgeball when they're all sitting in the bar, and he's like, your number, what is it?
We don't know who our best player is.
Ben
yet.
Stiller goes, your best player's a Pirate. He goes, whoa, we don't even know who our best player is. That's our wide receiver core right now. This was by design. You had a plan when you came into this offseason. There were home run options at least out there.
Yeah.
And instead you settled for doubles and singles. Now, I'm not going to decry any of the work that Brandon Beane did. I think he did a good job, given the hand he was dealt, in the offseason of trying to put a more competitive product on the field week in and week out. But with that said, you got a John Brown. Okay? John Brown has never been a household name. He's never been really known for anything. A Cole Beasley, he's an older guy who runs routes really well, but again, what has he proven in the NFL? How many Pro Bowls does he have? You didn't really give him tools to work with outside of that offensive line, and you chose to do that. That was a choice you made.
Yeah.
You skipped it in the draft you used the number 9 pick on Ed Oliver. That's a value pick. He was the best talent, but there was wide receivers in this class that probably could have helped, and
Sure.
we didn't take them. So with that said, this offense, it is what it is, and I think that if they're going to sink or swim because of the revamped line, and if it doesn't, nobody gets a pass because you did this on purpose.
Right.
I think the quote I used was, you don't get to tie one hand behind your back and then complain that you lost a fist fight.
Yeah. Let me disagree with you on two things. A Pro Bowl is not a measure of talent anymore.
That's fair.
So
that is fair.
I don't want to care about
Tyrod Taylor made Pro Bowls.
Tyrod Taylor made the play. All right.
Two in a row.
Secondly, I don't believe that Josh Allen's struggles was a result of the offensive line. I mean, there's a lot of blame to go to that, but a lot of Josh Allen's struggles was the fact that he can't get through his reads fast enough to get guys open. There's times that you watch all season long when I went back and watched it all 22, and I'm looking at guys that are getting separation. This is the NFL. This is not no backwoods college division where you can wait for guys to get open and they're open for 5 seconds and then throw the ball. You throw guys open in NFL. You have to throw guys open in NFL. You have to throw guys open accurately in NFL. He couldn't do that last season, and by the time he got to that read where he had the gap or he had some sort of separation, it was too late. So what do you do now? Well, now you have to run. And even when the offensive line gave him time, he sat there and held the ball, trying to wait for a guy to be open instead of throwing a guy open and getting the ball. Now, if you watch any of the Senior Bowl last year and you watch Josh Allen, or 2 years ago, Josh Allen really struggled in the team activities. What he was great at was his one-on-one